Hello and welcome to Shades and Layers. I'm your host, Kutwanos Kosana Richie, and this week we are in the world of fashion. In this episode, fashion meets tech, and we discover a different way African fashionistas are getting access to luxury fashion. The Closet Runway is a Cape Town-based luxury fashion rental company co-founded by two friends, Evelina Nailenge and Ange Mahoro. So one of the things that is very often mentioned by entrepreneurs on Shades and Layers is how difficult it can be to hit the sweet spot between luxury, sustainability, and affordability. And this is universal for product companies across the African continent. So today we get into this topic with one half of the Closet Runway duo, Evelina. She joins me for a conversation that spans how she met her business partner, Ange, how they stumbled on this idea and made it happen. We discuss some obstacles for product companies in Africa, such as logistics. We get insights into e-commerce, the rise of African designers, customer tastes, inclusion, and even getting a quick glimpse into venture capital in Cape Town. Evelina is a finance professional by day, and Ange is a fashion model. We'll find out how these two energies come together daily to make women's fashion fantasies a reality. Here is Evelina's story. So, how would you describe your work personally as one of the partners, and also the deeper meaning you attach to your daily activities?
I can describe Closet Runway to be a few things. It's definitely first and foremost a labor of love. In addition to that, it embodies our personal ethos when it comes to clothing and how we like to consume clothing. And then also, everybody's aware, we've just come out of a pandemic. So during the pandemic, as it obviously was the case around the world, there would be shutdowns in terms of, time spaces where we could be a bit out in public, and sometimes spaces where it required us to be completely shut down and be at home. So, that went on for a while. It was like, then it's slightly open again. Then we could move a bit, and then we were back at home. Then we could move a bit, and then we were back at home. So as that was happening, and it also so happens that, my business partner, she's a very social person. So as the world will slightly open up a bit, she'll be like, let's go somewhere. And every time we needed to leave the house, all of a sudden we had nothing to wear. And I was like, okay, this cannot be, because also, we've had a pandemic for 3 years. So it's like you go in your closet, everything looks a little, maybe sometimes a little dated, sometimes a little old, but it's not actually because it was dated and old. It's just because you haven't worn it in a long time. And we've never lived in such a moment as human beings. We've always kind of had clothes that we'd wear on a regular.
Yeah.
So that was like such a mind mix up for the both of us. And so we're like, you know what? It can't be that every time we need to go out, then we need to quickly rush to the mall to maybe get a new top or get a new skirt or a pair of jeans. So we're like, no, this is not sustainable, and it's not a good way to live, because then what are we doing?
Right.
And then, we had we had the idea in our pockets for a minute, but we never also kind of found the right time to then go ahead and do it, and plan the business, launch, get started and whatnot. So then at some point, say about February last year, then we started discussing the idea seriously. And so then we're like, look, you know what, let us see if maybe we can do this. And so February, March, April, we discussed. By May, we were setting up meetings and hitting the ground and putting platforms in places to essentially launch the business. And come December, mid-December last year, we launched. Yeah.
That's wonderful. It moved quite quickly, it seems. So from idea to actual implementation was like, what, a year or just short of a year?
So implementation, I would say short of a year, but the idea in itself, so essentially when the idea really hit me for the first time was when I was in university. So I was a law student, and I was stressed and had my workload was so what I would do, I had this ritual that I would do in the morning when I woke up. So this was in the days of BlackBerry. So I used to read the New York Times in the morning when I would wake up. And I know it doesn't quite sound like a way to relax, but it does relax me, just because I read a bit, and I like to consume news, and I read really on a broad spectrum. I
Yeah.
From culture to serious stuff to, so I would, on a daily check in with the New York Times and all the other publications. I'll check in with the New Yorkers, the Time Magazine, and so on and so forth. So the New York Times was my go-to morning thing to read. So I would, allocate, you know, half an hour to 45 minutes just like to see what's happening in the world. I would read the lifestyle section, the hard news, all the other things that are going on in the world. So the one time I came across this story about these two, I think they were doing their MBAs at the time, Harvard students, that they met as friends while they were at Harvard Business School. And so they came up with this idea to build an e-commerce rental platform. And I thought, oh my God, that is so smart. But definitely at that time, we were not really advanced in such a way that perhaps it wasn't the right time for, for us in the side of the world, say for instance, in South Africa.
Yeah, e-commerce was almost non-existent at the time. Yeah.
So it was literally non-existent. So because I could, as I was reading the article, a lot, I could already kind of like picture in my head about how that's going to work. So then they spoke about, they thought of this idea, and then they set up a meeting with one of New York's designers, Donna Karan, and they were like, oh, she was kind enough. She responded, and they were obviously shocked. So then off they
Well, Harvard will open a lot of doors, but yeah.
off they went to Manhattan to go and speak to Donna Karan and
Nice.
tell her about this idea. And she was like, ladies, no, like, I can't do that, because then that would, I think she said something to the effect of that would devalue her clothes or something of the sort, So then in that moment, as I was reading the story, then I was like, okay, what would it take to probably, because it's not like they were giving their entire IP plan away.
Right.
They were just about the idea essentially on what that could look like and what they had done so far and how the business came about. But then I was like, okay, so for a business like this to work, what would you need? You probably need some sort of, unique technology platforms. You need logistics. So you need quick courier. You need this, you need that, you need that.
Yeah.
Other. And I was like, no, it wasn't the time. And also as a student, I didn't have the money, the means, the resources to open up that kind of business. I was still trying to get 2 degrees. So then I was like, okay, fine. I kept it at the back of my head. And then so essentially when COVID came about, so then I started to think about it again. So the idea has definitely been there for a very long time.
Yeah. It's amazing how these things stay incubated, right?
Yeah, amazingly so. So then I was like, no, I had a lot of time to also think through it over the years. And so what I've done over the years was I've always track e-commerce. When I would see an e-commerce story, I'd read about it. I mean, I remember also when South Africa's e-commerce kind of started picking up, when we had the likes of Take a Lot come into the scene. I remember also reading up on Take a Lot when it was fairly new, and the founders and and I was like, oh, okay, so this is how this is going to work. This is what this means. So I've had enough time to think about the idea, but definitely, as you said before, in terms of implementation, it did take under a year for us to
yeah. But you guys occupy a very interesting space. You've got this e-commerce side, so you ship all over South Africa. And then you also have a physical space in Cape Town. So can you tell me where are your biggest touch points?
So good question. It's essentially initially when we started, we thought because we're based in Cape Town, a lot of our renters are going to be perhaps Cape Town based only, but obviously also, so we like to think of our business as a 3 subsection business. So we've got the physical space, as you've said, we've got the website, and then obviously social media. So because and due to social media, the word is obviously spread nationwide. Right. So what we initially thought was going to happen, we thought, okay, fine, okay, people are going to be walking in, and for the most part, and probably those are going to be the most renters. But no, people do walk in. They walk in for fittings. They come in and they ask us, what it is that we do, and they get to find out about us. But also, social media obviously is doing what it is meant to do. People DM us from wherever in South Africa, and they get in touch and they inquire. We then direct them to the website, and then they rent. They do their payments, and then Yeah, so essentially at this point, a lot of our renters are coming out of Gauteng and the Western Cape. So out of Johannesburg mainly,
Right.
and the Western Cape, yeah.
Yeah, I actually was interested. I was intrigued to see that you are in Cape Town. I was like, oh, okay. I would think Johannesburg would be the first, logical place to set up shop, but clearly it also makes sense in Cape Town.
Yeah, so it also happens that I have a full-time job as well. So at this point, the runway is what you would say nowadays a side hustle, although we do take it seriously. It almost does feel like a full-time job. So my full-time job is that I work in finance. My job is based in Cape Town.
Why I thought Johannesburg also was because of the designers. And a lot of them are based in Johannesburg. So how has it worked for you to do these partnerships and get people to trust you with their clothing labels?
Yeah. No, that's another good question. So when I used to read up on e-commerce, it was always so if I would look at like the local publications, whether it be Venture Burn or all this other Magdison or Biz Community, the story was always when they would talk about e-commerce and maybe the future of tech in South Africa, they would always say, oh, Cape Town is where it's at, or Cape Town is the Silicon Valley of South Africa. So for that reason, it's also in a way, it got embedded into my head in a way to say, oh, yeah, if you're running a tech company, you go to Cape Town. And also, like I look at the likes of Beats, Sweep South, or, other sort of like the financial ones, whether it be Yoko and whatnot, they were all launched in Cape Town.
Right.
And yeah. And even normally when there's like tech conferences and stuff, they also happen in Cape Town predominantly. So then I was like, oh, maybe Closet Runway should also be launched in Cape Town. and also a lot. Launched in Cape Town,
Right.
Superbalist in Cape Town. So then I was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So then I was like, no, maybe that's what we should do with Closet Runway. So really, that was where I also got that idea.
Oh, wow.
And then I was
Okay,
like,
yeah.
on his way to add. And I, of course, I was very aware that those other companies, they, sometimes they launch and because in terms of size, they're so big that, they would have like entire desks, dedicated to web developers and that sort of thing. And that's definitely not our case. But then I just thought, oh, it would be nice. Why not?
Right.
Do it in Cape Town.
Right.
You guys have done
you get
it.
access to all this tech talent. Absolutely.
Yeah. And also just was like, what if maybe one day we'll get VC'd? There is also a VC culture in Cape Town. So it's small, but it exists,
Right.
So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, let's do it there. And then maybe we can have that story as well.
Right.
Right. So then that's where we started. And then, so that's how then we launched in Cape Town. And then so in terms of the designers and in terms of how that has been and how those relationships have been going and are going. So although the designers are based in Joburg, that's correct. We've been lucky to also meet them in South Africa. I mean, in Cape Town. I remember just a week before we launched in December, a very dear friend of ours, his name is Seth Shezi, invited us to this event that was happening. It was organized by Twine Magazine, another Cape Town-based magazine, and it was happening at Mount Nelson. And it was basically a showcase of local designers that came together and they were showcasing their designs. So on this one particular day, we happened to have gone, they were showing Matlosa designs. So obviously the owner and creative director of Matlosa, Laduma himself, also happened to be there. And then there were the second day when we went, they were showing designs under Musa Maxwell, and of course also the two creative duos, brilliant minds behind the brand, were also present. So in both instances, we also got time to get FaceTime with the designers, and we absolutely told them about our concept, and they were very happy, very supportive, very encouraging. And initially, from the get-go, they were like, this is brilliant because we're very aware that our designs cost this much. This is our price point. But ideally, we would like a lot more people to be able to wear our clothes. Yeah. So what you guys are doing and what you're going to do is actually going to provide that opportunity for a lot more people to wear our designs at a fraction of the price. So they were like, oh is brilliant. And yeah, so they're very supportive. And I remember on that day, Laduma was even like, look, let me give you guys, the number to, at the time, I think it was one of his factories or atelier in the Eastern Cape.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you're ever looking for a piece and you're unable to find it anywhere, contact the people on this number. They should be able to help you. So
Wonderful. Yeah.
yeah. So very, very helpful. And also, having said that, we're definitely planning also to stock more local designers. We've got now at the moment, we've definitely got in Tebe Magugu, we've got in Matlosa. We're hoping to definitely increase that because they're renting so well. They're really, really renting so well.
Yeah. So do you own the pieces yourselves, or, do you have some kind of partnership with the designers?
Yes. No, so I don't know if that makes us fortunate or, but no, we own all the pieces. So we bought everything full price. Yeah.
And, how do you deal with, let's say, outfit damage? Have you had any kind of incidents of that nature? Because anything can happen in shipping, anything can happen at an event.
Yeah, absolutely. So we haven't had we've been lucky thus far.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't had any incidents yet, but it's also but of course it's we kind of it is something that we think about that one day it could happen.
Mm.
Um
Yeah, I'm
and we
just wondering
definitely
if there's some kind of insurance for this kind of business, seeing as it's so new, right?
yes, there is. Also, so that was one of the very first things we had to look into, right?
Mm.
And so then when we approached a couple of insurance companies and we were telling them the concept, and they're like, yeah, no, we could definitely insure you guys. And we were like, wait, but do you guys understand what it is that we're saying? So this means that. They're like, yeah, no, absolutely. And then as they would send us information and we'd look more into insurance, we're like, oh my goodness, insurance has really changed beyond what we knew it as,
Right,
you insure
yeah.
all your other properties and whatnot. And there's so many range in the insurance business. So definitely our clothing items are fully insured, yes.
Yeah. This is Shades and Layers, and my guest today is Evelina Nailenge, co-founder of the Closet Runway, an inclusive luxury clothing rental business in Cape Town, South Africa. Up next, we discuss how they plan to remain competitive in the market. Evelina also shares that while your big-name luxury fashion brands are always desirable, there's also a growing interest in designers from all over the African continent. We also get deeper into how they developed and tested their business idea. What's going to be your moat, as this type of business gets popular? What's your unique selling point, I would say?
I think when I look at Closet Runway, I would say our unique selling point is definitely, I think our buying power, I would say number one,
Mm-hmm.
our buying power. I think that holds us in very good stead. One other thing that I could mention is the range. We really do have the range, if I can say so myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you're buying something, or as we were doing during the buying process, we were like, okay, we think we've done a good job. And then we had the launch. And because so by the time, so we started buying in August and had the launch in December. So we've sat with the clothes for quite a bit before we had the official launch. And so at that point, my business partner and I were slightly tired of the clothes in a way. Not that just because we've seen it so much and we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, fashion people, yes.
Then when we launched and the people saw the clothes the first time, the reaction were like, no, we did good.
Mm-hmm.
So we recently did another second round of buying, which is very close to the initial investment that we did for the first buying to increase our plus size clothing range. And this was strictly for plus size bodies. And so that's what we did. And we really we went there, we bought again and again when we brought in the clothes, and we invited a few people to come in and have a look and give their opinion, and it's been amazing. They love the colors, they love the ranges, the materials, the tone. And also we do think about that a lot. We think about, when we're buying something, we think about how the color of the garments translate to the skin tone, to the various skin tones of people.
Yeah.
So definitely know if we're like, okay, we've got this specific dress, it's in this color, this would look great for people of the stone and that and that. So we think about really across the spectrum, we think about tones, and it doesn't mean, and also what would look good on a variety of tones, because essentially what the problem that we're trying to solve is to make these dresses available to be worn by as many people as possible.
And do some people come back for the same item more than once?
Sometimes it hasn't happened as often, but it can happen sometimes. So say somebody might rent something, an item, because they're going somewhere, but then they could come back and say, okay, I have a shoot, I need that particular something again for a photo shoot.
Right.
So in that instance, yes, that tends to happen.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm hearing sustainability, circular fashion. I mean, what are the other motivations that you've observed that lead people to want to hire a luxury clothing?
So for us, starting, we thought, okay, sustainability is slow fashion, circular fashion. And then we also realized that it's also the designers. So there's the specific pieces of clothing and the designers behind them. Some people are interested in African designers. So so we've definitely got the local ones, so the likes of the Tepe Magugu and Matlosa, but we've also got in the likes of Andrea Yama. She's a Nigerian designer, and we're looking at other designers as well, Tongoros and so on and so forth from Senegal and the likes. Obviously, also have our eye on Lisa Filawayo from Nigeria. So some people specifically are like, no, they come in specifically for that. And also, depending also where people are going, there's definitely a sort of like consumer want that, if someone is going to a wedding. So we have this one particular Maklasa skirt. That skirt has traveled than all of us combined. It's been to France, it's been to Johannesburg, all parts of Johannesburg many times. It's been to another European country, was it Italy recently? So people are like, oh no, I have a wedding. There's a wedding that is happening. A friend is getting married. I'm invited to a wedding, but this wedding is happening, in France or in Italy or whatever. But I need that piece. So different ones. It can be designer driven. It can be, sustainability driven. Can be also just price point as well. So price is also close. It's just like, sometimes some of these dresses retail at quite high price ranges, over 10. Yeah. And if someone can rent that at 1,000 rand, they would definitely rather opt for that. And also because if you're buying it at that many thousands, really, how many times are you really going to wear it? So they really find our business model and our way of business in our, the way we provide service is something that is very essential, and it solves a problem for them. And also then there's obviously other people that maybe just aren't really necessarily a fan of shopping in a way. They're not traditional shopping. So they're very happy to come in, pull a few stuff. There isn't, the space is essentially, when you're in that space fitting in, you're kind of, it's just yourself and the person who's assisting you in our showroom, and then that's it. And so you do that, the time with it. They like the quietness, they like the fact that they don't have to go to the mall. So it's a variety of things.
Oh, that's lovely. So you offer styling consultation as well?
Definitely. That's definitely something we offer, although we haven't advertised as much, which you should. We should do more of that. But definitely, because essentially, even if that isn't the intention, people tend, if you're trying on something and there's people around you, you'd ask for an opinion. How does this look? We would weigh in, give advice. Even recommend. Sometimes also people specifically, they would go to the website or go on social media and pick a specific outfit to come and try on that specific outfit. We would then look at a person, and one of the things we would do is, we would commonly do is say, no, but I think there's this other 3 dresses that would look great on you, And then it ends up being a full-on try-on session, and they take pictures of themselves and videos, and Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. I love that. I really love this rental concept. The one thing that I also wanted to ask you was, you had this idea, it's been sitting with you, you read about it, etc. But then, in order for you to go full in on the concept, you need to test it. So who
Yes.
did you use as your test subjects? How did you go about it and say, okay, fine, we definitely have potential here and we should just go for it?
Maybe not so much as test subjects, because also we were really convinced as we were discussing it. We just was like, no, I think this is going to work, because we are our customers. Our problems are our customers' problems.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing also, we both are very much interested in fashion. There's many things that we love, but they're also not available locally. It's definitely pricier if we try and build those collections for ourselves. It's pricey, but if we could do this at a scale in which it's a community of us and not just the two of us, I think it can't be that we're the only one sitting with this problem.
All right.
In South Africa, although we do have access to international brands, we think of the local South African fashion landscape as there's urban luxury, which is your upper echelon luxury brands, and then you've got the retailers, the local retailers. There's never the middle part.
Yeah.
I mean, a normal. Yeah, so we sit on that, the higher luxury European brands, and then the local retailers, and then that's it. And we're like, no, there should be well-made clothes, good quality, that could be priced fairly, that we could make available to a community of us.
That's interesting. I had a conversation with Maria McCloy about that, and retail is always a challenge.
So then that was where we're like, no. We know between the two of us that there's many brands in the world that exist that that fit in that middle, but that we don't have access to in South Africa. But we could make them available through our business model in our service offering, and have that as essentially what Closet Runway is.
That's exciting. So VC manifest. So the other question I had for you was about shipping, which is, of course, a big challenge for many e-commerce entities. I'm assuming that things have become easier since COVID, because we see a lot of online retail. So how have you navigated that space for yourselves?
Yeah, shipping is definitely one of the bigger ones. Yeah, but it's also a thing that we actually still trying to navigate. So we wish it were different. We wish it were quicker, smoother, faster in a way. That hasn't been our experience. Definitely some pains there. But I think what makes it a little bit better for us is that we're not selling the dresses, right? So we tend to sit on our inventory for a while longer,
right,
than as opposed to selling the dresses.
Yeah. You don't need to be shipping all the time.
Yes. We don't have we do not, our business does not require quick turnarounds in terms of how we replace our inventory. So that is really the good thing that is keeping us sane where shipping is concerned. Definitely hoping that one day we'd wake up and it would be much quicker, faster, a bit way more efficient than it is.
Yeah. So let me ask you about you and Ange. How did you meet?
So Ange and I met in Cape Town. This was 2020. So this was when we had just really gotten over the first bout of COVID, of the pandemic in a way. And things were kind of starting to come down, and then services were opening up for the first time. And we found ourselves both in need of accommodation here again in Cape Town. And so we met through our estate agent. So she was like, so Ange met her first, and then I met her second. And then so when I met her and we got chatting, she had time a bit. So we ended up grabbing coffee. And she was like, I met somebody earlier this morning and I think you two would be good friends, which was very confusing to me because I was like, wait, what do you mean? And so then she was like, there's this other lady that I just had a meeting with, who's also looking for an apartment. And I think you two would be good friends. So then she went to the trouble of setting us up. Within 3 days, she made it happen. She got us together. We met and we hit it off.
She's a matchmaker. Great.
She
Nice.
should have been in matchmaking and not in real estate.
You know, that's fantastic. And, how did you know that you guys would make good partners in a business? Because being friends is very different from being business
Yes.
partners.
Yes. No, you're right. I might not necessarily have the right answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
But what had happened with the real estate, we got separate places, accommodation, and then a year later we moved in together.
Okay.
Yeah, and that then just went brilliantly. We get along, and we don't. Should I be saying this publicly? We don't
What?
disagree. We don't disagree.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to kind of like are gravitated towards the same things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we somehow also gel in such a way that if I have an idea and she weighs in, it's never necessarily a no. We have a way of finding things work.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like a lot, it's like a good formula that just kind of came together unexpectedly, but it worked so well.
Yeah.
So, and I think also obviously given that we run an e-commerce, also an e-commerce startup, which is essentially also a lifestyle business, and we're both deeply interested in lifestyle. So that definitely also helps things along. And I think we're also very good at focusing on and playing to our strengths.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how do you complement each other in the business?
Yes. So yeah, so we're definitely good at that. I bring that kind of like corporate experience and, a way in which like we can keep things formal, in a way, run the business in a very formal way. But also a business of this nature needs many things just beyond that. It needs also an intense social aspect,
Right.
intense network aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You need to be, if you in a room, you need to be able to work the room and do that. And she is very good in all of those things that I just mentioned.
Right. Right.
So but then come to the business itself, be it the buying and looking at the clothes and figuring out the social medias and whatever, but then that we do together. Then we both then come in that way, and so bringing also all those other differences that I've just mentioned before in that and meshing those.
Right. This is Shades and Layers. We have mentioned a lot of designers and fashion labels so far, and you can find links and mentions included in the show notes. Let's get back into our conversation with Evelina Nailenge, co-founder of the Closet Runway, as she tells us about the people and businesses she admires, as well as her personal story. We will then wrap the episode up with the Shades and Layers Rapid Fire. So you, of course, got inspired by reading broadly and then the entrepreneurial path. Is it something that just came to you later in life, or were there signs earlier on that, this is a path that you would eventually pursue?
It's always been on my mind, but I was also always very careful to think about, once I find myself in a position where I feel like I'm ready and that I'm able to do this, what sort of business is going to be? Because trust me, I've thought of many things. I've thought of many things, and I continue to think about many other things. But this was also one of my loves, and the ones that I'm deeply interested in, and that the sort of business that I like. So it made sense from that perspective. Yeah, so definitely thought of many other things, still thinking of many other things.
Yeah.
Just in this phase of my life, this was one of the ones that I was like, okay, I'm ready now, let's do this.
Right. And which role models stand out to you right now in the e-commerce space? Who do you admire?
You're so many role models, obviously, as in, humans, but also just sometimes even business models that business models change. A company can start as a startup, and then essentially it changes into something, it morphs into something else that is bigger. And that is also because then they'll tweak the business model and flip it around, and it turns into an amazing thing. So role models in the e-commerce space, I would say, at the top of my head currently, Sweep South.
Oh, okay.
So they're clean.
Yeah.
Sweep South. I'm a big fan. What they've managed to do, and I think also just, as with anywhere in the world, but I think you also, this being South African, domestic work is really one of those backbone of like African workforce.
Yeah.
So the way in which they've managed to, also kind of provide work, it was always like you'd have a domestic worker who either comes in, this many times a week or maybe lives with you, but the fact that they've managed to change that, and now at the tip of your finger you could have someone either come once a week or just when you need them. If you're in town for a week, you can get someone to come and help you with your cleaning. I think Sweep South, big fan.
Great.
Locally, another one, I think Superbalist, also in the way in which they started. I like that also. One of the other ones that I recently saw come up, I've been watching them in terms of what they're trying to do, and I think it's gonna turn into something very exciting. And it's also one of those where I'm like, okay, this is gonna be interesting to see what it turns into.
Yeah.
In the international landscape, there's some individuals that I really like. Emma Gede. He is one of the founding partners of Skims, which obviously, as we know, Kim Kardashian is behind.
Yeah.
So definitely Emma Gede, I think, and also with her 15% pledge, I like that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Brilliant. If I was to bring it back to locally, I think COVID, in a way, the pandemic has helped the local e-commerce landscape in such a way that our local supermarkets went e-commerce.
Yeah.
That was such a thing that, because we were asking for the longest time,
Yeah.
And it was never happening. It's like, I don't know if they were not listening, or maybe it's just maybe they never got back to that feedback never. And then COVID came.
Inertia,
The likes of Checkers with the 60 app, how they managed to just turn it around so quick and fast. Obviously, Dash with via Woolworths before then they closed down Dash and put it on and then they obviously made the whole Woolworths e-commerce.
Yeah.
Also, the Pick and Pay food app that like when I think that also changed e-commerce in such a way. In a very positive way, actually, locally.
Yeah.
I wish
there's no going back.
Well, there's no going back now. There's no going back. People rely on them now for, people now schedule their groceries and, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They don't have to schedule at times waiting at home. Yeah. I'm trying to think internationally. Of course, always the number one, Amazon, the number one.
Yeah. I'm actually based in the city where they started. I'm in Seattle. Yeah. Everything is Amazon here. It's actually very wrong. I must say that, sometimes you just order like single items and they arrive, and you have to be very, very disciplined because it's too easy, way too easy. There's no friction.
Absolutely. And I think that is, and so locally, I know like some of the things that our frustration is sometimes, the delay, because obviously locally we have that kind of lag in terms of when then they would say you would order something, the payment would go through, and then on the day of delivery, you'd sit at home the whole day because they say, oh, deliver between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. So
the
whole day you're sitting at home waiting for your parcel. So that's definitely one of those things that, because if it was quicker, and if then the technology advances in such a way that they bring in the technology that tells you, oh, within, you will get it at this hour. And if it was more time, yes, people would definitely spend more.
Yeah.
But it's something.
There's still a lag. I think I appreciate that lag because it's not always good for business, but let me tell you, from a consumer side, it's like, oh no, it's too convenient. It's actually quite disturbing, to be honest.
You're absolutely onto something. Yeah, so I think also, so another interesting fact, just with Closet Runway and e-commerce and, so when we buy our clothes, there was a period last year where we were in London, found ourselves in London. So we also used that opportunity to bring back a few dresses. And it was again also the turnaround. We were there for just maybe like a little over a week or so. And, you'd buy a whole dress today and they were like, no, in 2 days, if it's within if it was in London, really in 2 to 3 days you have it. They had 24-hour turnarounds. And I was really amazed at that. I was like, oh my goodness. They would
Yeah,
push
I mean, if you have to think about your carbon footprint and all of that, it's just like, okay, come on, guys. Maybe it shouldn't be this easy.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
But I think also sitting on the other fence of e-commerce, you're like, oh, this is efficient.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think there are two very different needs being serviced by this whole setup, the e-commerce setup. But I wonder if there is a middle ground somewhere. Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I definitely agree with what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, no, definitely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's I think I spoke more on the local ones, but I think I'm happy with that. I
Yeah.
think
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. So, a couple more things. I usually have a rapid fire for the guests. And the first question I asked is if you were to write a memoir, what would it be called and why?
Oh my gosh. I feel like I think I'm too young to be thinking about memoir titles because I don't know. I think I'm going to live a long time. I think I'm going to live a long time. But if I was to, rapid fire, I would call it She Went and Did It.
Yes, good.
Because
That's nice and
did
quick. I love it. And that's because?
I think that's because I think I went and did it and I am doing it. I think for that reason. Yeah.
And if someday you had to turn your life into a movie, who would you pick for the lead actress?
Nia Long.
Oh, yay. Oh, I love her. Yeah. She hasn't been mentioned
Yeah.
much in this in the rapid fire, so that's great. She's great, yeah. And and if you had to invite a famous Black woman for dinner tonight, who would it be? Living or dead?
Famous? Maybe not. So there's this maybe not famous. I have a name. This lady, her name is Melody Hobson. She's an investment professional from the United States. She co-owns an investment company called Ariel Investments, and she's also the chairman of the board of Starbucks, I believe. Does amazing work. Her track record speaks for itself.
Yeah,
a great businesswoman. It's definitely for that reason that I would wanna just have those conversations and be like, and I think also obviously because I work in investments, but I definitely I think for the fact that she does a lot of advisory work for business in the world of business and that.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, Melody Hobson. I think she's my person.
Fantastic. I love that. And where can people find you if they want to work with you, or just get a taste of the work that you do?
No. So definitely contact us, Google Closet Runway. Our details are online. Also, just send us a DM via Closet Runway on Instagram.
And that is all from me this time around. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Evelina for sharing her story. And if you enjoyed the episode, please go ahead and share it with someone. Please also remember to give the show a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. 5 stars would be great. Thank you. I'm Kutlwanus Kosana Richie, and until next time, please do take good care.